Okay, everybody, got day number 4 from our Flower Garden Bank National Marine Sanctuary coral spawn trip here. This was our last day. We're on Stetson Bank, buoy 2. It's dive 1 of the day. We're only going to do 2 dives. Then we're heading back to port, and we'll get back to port the evening of this same day. So, 2 dives on Stetson here. It's quite a bit different than the other videos. If you've ever been to the Flower Garden Banks, you know, Stetson has no hard coral. It's pretty open, barren. It's almost like a moonscape is how I would describe it, and you'll see that here shortly. But video of Stetson here. Again, it's myself, my brother Evan, my brother Garrett, jumping off the boat here, just like on the other banks and in the other videos. The current is pretty strong. Of course, every single location, you got the barracudas hanging out near the line and right under the boat here. You can already see the bottom. I left a lot of this descent intact so that you could kind of see Stetson here from kind of a bird's eye view, a little bit higher up. It's not as clear yet, but we'll get there. Bunch of bait fish. I'm not sure what these are. These could be just about anything. There's a cottonwick, the one with the black line going down in this tail. What I'm pointing at up underneath the rocks here is not the cottonwick, though. There's a bunch of little fish under here. Some of the darker ones are chromis, but the orange ones there are flamefish. Pretty cool looking little fish. Those are actually on my business card. See these little blue fish on the brain coral here? Those are all little neon gobies. Big bunch of them there. Pretty cool to see all those in one little location. This is absolutely definitely a gray snapper. Whole bunch of tangs here. I don't normally see tangs hang out in a big group like this. I don't know if this is some kind of spawning aggregation or what they're doing, but it's a lot of tangs for one school there. French angelfish. The main angels out here are going to be French, blue, gray, and queen. There's a queen. Looks like she has a crown on her head. There's a little blue circle above her eyeballs. That's how you could tell it's a queen angel. Smooth trunk fish here. A lot of these fish we've seen on previous dives, but again, it's a little more open here. Not very many places for stuff to hide, so it's a little easier to see stuff here. There's an adult spotted drum, I think. I'm not 100%. I think that's what this is. Body shape's very unique. It doesn't have any spots, though. Just kind of a stripe running down to the tail. But that's what it looks like to me, is an adult spotted drum. We saw 2 juveniles on this trip. I think this is an adult. Kind of yellow, too. They're not normally yellow looking like that, so that may not be a spot drum. Spotfin butterflies here. When they're juveniles, they have a spot, like a false eye near their tail. As they grow, they lose that. Of course, Dr. Fish, Surgeon Fish, Blue Tang, Atlantic Blue Tang, whatever you want to call it. 89 feet, 19 minutes of no deco time remaining. Of course, just fish everywhere. Most of these little ones are chromis. That little purple and yellow one there was a juvenile Spanish hogfish. Of course, these long spine urchins are everywhere. They're trying to hide in the cracks because it's daytime. They'll come out at night. So we're seeing something here. Evan points out to me. It's real small. I didn't really notice it at first. But this is a little juvenile lionfish. Crazy small. I don't know that I've ever seen one quite that small before. Big crack here. I like to look in these cracks. Fish like to hide in here. This crack is no exception. There's a grouper sitting in here. Not only is there a grouper sitting in there, when you look at Evan's angle here, there's 2 groupers sitting in there. Not sure what type of grouper these are. Those are definitely grouper. Coming around here, we'll come around the wall. I'm just leaving a lot of this intact so you can see lots of little crevices. You're looking for crevices and holes and looking for stuff hiding in these gaps and stuff in here. Big gap there. Nothing quite inside that one. Now this is kind of a drop off here. We're at 105 feet at this point. Less than 10 minutes of no deco time remaining. We're about to head back up. A couple of little jacks come out of here. These look like juvenile amberjack. Those do not look like Almaco jacks to me. Maybe lesser amberjack, possibly. So right here, it almost looks fake. It looks like somebody set a fake slipper lobster in this hole, just sitting there. They're really easy to see. But it's not, obviously it's not fake. It's a real slipper lobster. And just at the hole here, relying on his camouflage, hoping that he's not what we're actually looking at. These guys are actually red and white, like his legs. You see his little leg sticking off to the side. It's really red and white. Some little like hair-looking thing sticking up there. The whole crab looks like that, but they tend to get overgrown, and the overgrowth kind of camouflages them pretty well. Tons of fish sitting here tight in this little cubby. Bunch of Creole fish. Spanish hogfish in there. A couple of French angels. A couple spotfin butterflies. It's a really busy little spot here. Creole fish laying on the bottom. I don't know what's going on with that guy. And that's going to end dive one. Coming up here, again, I'm going to leave some of this intact so you can get a pretty good bird's eye view of Stetson Bank here. Again, we're on buoy number 2 at Stetson. Coming up, there's still bait fish hanging on the line here. There's Evan, a little selfie. There's me. One of the few times I get to be in my own videos here. There's Garrett, not quite paying attention, doesn't realize he's on camera. So, did our service interval. We're going to do dive 2 here. Same location, same date. This is dive number 17 for the trip. This has been a very long trip. But this is going to literally our last dive before we turn around and head back to the dock here. So stepping up, getting ready to jump off the boat. In the water, headed down. Well, not headed down just yet. There's Evan jumping in. Garrett's going to be right behind him. Again, current here was just as strong as it was on all of our other dives. We had quite a bit of current during the entire trip. All 4 days of diving was pretty strong current. And coming down here, you can see the bottom pretty well here. See the drop off? It just drops off into nothing there. Surrounding water here is probably 400 feet deep. It's a little too deep to see the bottom. Top of this, top of Stetson's about 80. These are big salt domes that push up from the bottom. And then the coral kind of grows on the top of that big giant salt dome. It's just shallow enough that the coral gets enough sunlight. But the surrounding water is in the 300-400 foot range. All right, come back down again. Fish everywhere. Queen angel right off the bat. Small fish everywhere. Most of those are going to be chromis, brown chromis, and black chromis. That's what a lot of these are, brown and black chromis. I see a couple of bluehead wrasse in there. I see a cocoa damsel, a little blue and yellow one. Queen angel. Fire coral. Do not touch. You will regret touching that stuff. If you've ever come in contact with it, you know what I'm talking about. It's a long recovery after making contact with that stuff. It's in the same family. It's actually not a coral, even though we call it fire coral. It's in the same family as the Portuguese man-of-war. Again, all these fish are black chromis, big cloud of them here. They're all black and brown chromis. Grouper here, yellow edge maybe. Not 100%. Definitely a grouper though. A lot of the blue stuff you see is sponge. Lots of little blue sections here and there. Most of that stuff is sponge. Squirrel fish. And these guys are nocturnal. They're trying to hide in the daytime, just sitting in cracks or whatever. Again, some of this I just left the video intact here, not so much for the fish, but just for the bottom here. The amount of life here is just kind of unreal. The camera can't even quite pick it all up. I almost want to do slow-mo here, but I won't. But there's just tons of tiny fish just swimming everywhere. Again, most of those are chromis. A lot of those bigger ones you see there are Creole fish. It's kind of a mix, but mostly Creole fish. There's a Spanish hogfish. And tons of chromis and damsels, and the blennies are probably down closer inside the barnacles and rocks. I see some gray snapper in the distance there. We'll come up to those in a second. Coming up to the drop off here. So we get to the bottom, generally the plan is head straight to the drop-off, get a little bit deeper, work the outside of the wall, then come back in and go up the line and get back on the boat, basically. So here we're kind of coming around the drop-off into the deeper water here, and we're going to kind of work this wall. It's not quite vertical, but it's got a pretty good steep angle to it. So on the deeper side here, there's a rock beauty, that black and yellow one. Pencil urchin, you see so many long spine urchins out here, you don't really get to see the pencil urchins very often because they're so much smaller. 80 feet, 16 minutes of no deco time remaining. There's a scallop right there. He's going to close, and he just shut. Sort of signaling with my hands, so oh man, he closed. Went to point him out, and I scared him by pointing at him. So coming up here, I didn't realize Evan even got this footage till after the dive. I was told about it. I totally missed this, but they got a spotted moray right out in the open, swimming around right in the open. I totally missed this. Pretty cool. Pretty good footage here. Of course, all those little black fish with the white dot, those are all black chromis. You see on his nose, he's got two little like snouts that kind of poke out from his nose. I'm not sure the purpose for those, but it's normal for them to have that. Little rock hind sitting here. He's pretty well camouflaged. Just sitting on top of the rock there. And that fish darting in and out, I believe, was a Creole fish. Another juvenile lionfish kind of sitting in a hole here. Reef butterfly on the left. Obviously yellow tang is going to be the bright yellow in there. Again, that big cloud of fish are almost all chromis. You see the drop off here. I'm at 78 feet. 20 minutes of time remaining. Now the time remaining changes depending on my depth. If you guys don't scuba dive, the deeper you go, the shorter amount of time you have. But as you go shallower, the computer gives you credit for going shallower and gives you more time. Now I also have to manage trying not to run out of air on top of that time limit. There's a spotted moray hiding in a gap back here behind this long spine urchin. It's kind of hard to see how he doesn't get poked in the eyeball. Bunch of little brown chromis. Little Graysby here. He's got a bunch of little dots on him. It's kind of hard to see. Another rock hind sitting here. These guys camouflage really well against the rocks. They're not bad to eat, but they're pretty small. Trying to show my brother something here. Diver kind of passes right through the middle of our group. So we kind of break apart for a second, come back together, pointing out something under here behind this long spine urchin, and it's a couple of small cleaner shrimp. I'm doing the signal with my hands. I'm doing the antennas on my head to signal, hey, little shrimp. You can vaguely see them in there. They're red and white. They're just to the right of that long spine urchin. Again, because the GoPro's on my face, I can't really cram my face down in that hole to get a good close-up. You see the bottom here, the way it's worn. Some layers are harder than other layers, and the earth is kind of turned up on edge. So in this crack here, there's a little blue fish that's a juvenile damsel, and then there's like a shell in there. It's a cowrie. I'm not sure how that cowrie got in there. It looks like it's kind of wedged in there. Maybe not. He might be able to just crawl right out of there. But pretty cool to see. You don't see those very often out here. A little bit better footage of it. Anywhere there's a rock with a gap under it, there's generally something under it, whether that be eels or usually something cool is hiding under anything that has a gap. Again, flamefish here, a bunch of small chromis, urchins, the usual suspects. A little arrow crab behind this urchin on the rock, looks like a spider back there. That's an arrow crab. Really cool bottom features. Big French angel. Squirrel fish hiding under the rock. Air check. I asked Garrett. He tells me. Can't quite see it. And Evan. He tells me everybody's on point. Alright, let's go this way. At this point, air checks have become pretty routine and they happen pretty fast. Heading out again. Another squirrel fish. This guy's kind of sitting in the open. Really bright yellow, bright red colors on them. This round thing looks like a lid, like a I don't know what that is. It's not a toilet seat. I'm not sure what that is or why it's down here. I didn't bother touching it or picking it up, but it looked unusual. This is a juvenile French angel. Very striking pattern as they become adults. The patterning changes and they become kind of overall black with yellow on the edges of every single little scale that they have. But this is a juvenile French angel. At this point we're headed kind of back toward the line. You see we're kind of at the line here. We're getting down lower in our air supply. At this point we still have a little bit of air left, so we're just kind of milling around the line here for a minute before we go ahead and start heading up to do our safety stop. Again, this is the last dive of the trip. This will kind of end this entire trip in this series of videos here. Right. While we're hanging out here, I get Evan's attention, call him over. There's a bunch of little holes, bunch of tessellated blennies in these holes. These are real common in like barnacles and stuff like that. Little blennies, super duper colorful. Some are bright red spots, blue, just really cool looking. But they're extremely small. The GoPro does not pick them up super well. Again, coming up, a little bit of a bird's eye view of Stetson here. Pretty open. Again, there's not many places for fish to hide here. That's going to kind of end the video here. We're coming up to the end of it. There's Garrett and myself. Again, this is ending a pretty long trip. It was actually a 5-day trip. I didn't count day one because it was all travel. But fun trip. Got together with the brothers I haven't seen in a while and got to see some really cool stuff. Can't wait to get together and do this again. Again, thanks you guys for watching my videos. I know my audio on here is terrible. My mic's out of condition, out of shape right now. And I've got some issues with it. But thanks for watching my videos, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.